Imagine your own sister, the person you trusted most, not just stealing your boyfriend, but meticulously planning it all behind your back. I thought that betrayal would shatter me, but what I didn't know was that her cruel scheme was about to unlock a future I never dreamed of, a future where she ended up with nothing but regret, and I found everything. Can you believe I actually thanked my sister for stealing my boyfriend? Because what he gave her in return wasn't a diamond ring. It was an STD. And while she's now drowning in a swamp of regret, I found real, beautiful love. It's a wild story, and honestly, it's one I never thought I'd be telling. So, picture this. Another painfully awkward family dinner. My sister, Olivia, was holding court as usual. Every meal with her was like her own personal, unsolicited TED Talk, except instead of a microphone, she'd just dramatically tilt her hand, inspecting her manicured nails like they held the secrets of the universe. My then-boyfriend, Luke, was glued to his phone under the table, completely checked out. And across from me, Olivia's boyfriend, Will, just sat there, arms crossed, with this weary, bored expression that screamed, "I've heard this exact story at least 9 times already." Then Olivia dropped a bombshell. "So, I've been thinking," she announced, surveying us all like we were her adoring audience. Will just sighed, muttering, "Here we go. I have an idea. It's kind of crazy, but hear me out." Olivia shot him a look that could curdle milk, and he just settled back, unbothered. I used to think Will was quiet because he was just boring. Turns out, he just learned it was utterly pointless to try and get a word in when Olivia was around. And then she said it. "I think you and I should swap boyfriends." I actually laughed, like a full-on, disbelieving snort. I blinked, sure she couldn't be serious, and looked at Luke, expecting him to join in. But he wasn't laughing. He actually looked up from his phone, staring at Olivia with more interest than he'd shown me in 3 months. "I'm serious," Olivia insisted, flashing that sweet, fake smile she always used when she was about to get what she wanted. She gestured at Will. "Think about it, Ella. Will is just so boring. No offense, babe." Will snorted softly, and I swear he whispered, "Better than dating a tornado that destroys everything and calls it excitement." But Olivia just sailed right over it, completely ignoring him. Then she leaned forward, chin in hand, eyes glinting. "And Luke? He's adventurous. He's fun. He's always down to try new things. I just feel like we'd be way more compatible. It makes sense if you really think about it." I just stared at her. "You're insane," I told her, my voice eerily calm. "I'm practical," she shot back. "Why should we both be stuck in relationships that don't fit when we could just trade? It's not like any of us are married, Ella." "Olivia," I said, "that is genuinely the dumbest thing I have ever heard you say. And you once told me you thought the sun and the moon were the same thing." "I was 12, she retorted, and stopped deflecting. "I'm offering you an upgrade." She waved at Will like he was a consolation prize on a game show. Will just raised an eyebrow, but still said nothing. Then Luke cleared his throat. My blood ran cold. I mean, he said slowly, "it's not the worst idea." My head snapped towards him so fast, I felt my neck crack. "Excuse me," I stammered. He just shrugged, that careless, infuriating shrug that made me want to throw my fork at him. "What? I'm just saying, might be fun to try something different. We've been together 3 years, Ella. Things get stale." "Stale?" My voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah, don't act like you haven't noticed." Oh, I'd noticed. I just expected us to fix it together, not use it as an excuse to swap me for my sister. Olivia clapped, beaming. "See? Luke gets it. Come on, Ella. 1 month. That's all I'm asking. If it doesn't work out, we switch back and forget it ever happened. No harm done." "No," I said flatly. "Why not?" she whined. "Because it's crazy. Because you're my sister. Because this isn't a Netflix movie. Pick a reason." Her eyes rolled so hard I thought they might get stuck. "God, you're so dramatic. It's not that serious. Will doesn't care. Right, babe?" She turned to him. "Tell her you don't care." Will just looked at me. Behind his usually impassive face, I saw a flicker of something. Exhaustion, maybe amusement, or even a touch of pity. Whatever ends dinner faster, he muttered. Olivia smiled triumphantly, as if he'd just proposed. Then, from her ridiculously fancy purse, she pulled out a folded piece of paper. I even drafted a little contract, she announced. 1 month minimum. No backing out early. No running to mom and dad. We all agree to give it a real shot. She pushed the paper across the table towards me. Come on, Ella. Live a little. Unless you're scared, we won't like you. And that was it. She knew exactly which buttons to push. The smart thing to do would have been to stand up, grab Luke, leave, and never mention this insane idea again. But Luke was already reaching for the pen. Luke! I yelled. Don't you dare! He signed his name without even looking at me, like I wasn't even there. Like 3 years of our lives together meant absolutely nothing. Relax, babe, he said, handing the paper to Olivia. It's just a month. Might be good for us. Shake things up. Good for us? Like I was the problem. Like I had soured our relationship. Fury blurred my vision. 2 years I had given him. 2 years of justifying his laziness, his selfishness, his inability to prioritize me. And he repaid me by signing away our relationship over dinner without a second thought. Olivia signed next, all dramatic flourishes. Will added a quick, almost amused scribble. Then everyone looked at me. Ella! Olivia purred, her voice sweet as honey, laced with poison. I should have walked away. I should have told them all to rot. But Luke had signed that form like he was looking for an escape, and something deep inside me refused to be the pathetic one begging him to stay. I snatched the pen, scrawled my name in angry, jagged strokes, and flung it across the table, watching it bounce. Olivia just grinned. That flawless, polished smile that never quite reached her cold eyes. Trust me, she said. This is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. She had no idea how right she was. I thought I was completely screwed when I signed that deal. My boyfriend had made it painfully clear he wanted out, agreeing before I even had a chance to decline. I was stuck with a dull stranger, and my sister had no idea what a bomb she'd just dropped. Her dull, safe, uninteresting boyfriend was hiding something that would change everything, and when she found out, she was going to lose her mind. 3 days later, I got a text from Will. Coffee, it read. Figured we should actually talk since we're stuck together for a month. I stared at it, wondering if it was some elaborate Olivia trap. But it was just an invitation. I typed sure before I could overthink it. We agreed to meet at a neutral cafe. I got there 20 minutes early, ordered a latte, and grabbed a corner table. When Will walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. I'd only ever seen him next to Olivia, looking like he wanted to melt into the floor. But now, he was in a black t-shirt and jeans, hands in his pockets, looking completely unburdened, relaxed. I swear I saw him wave. He sat across from me, and there was a moment of silence before he laughed softly, shaking his head. This is weird, right? He asked. It's not just you, I confirmed. It's extremely weird. I keep waiting for Olivia to pop out from behind a plant, he snorted. To tell me this was all some elaborate prank that would require her to admit she was wrong about something. I actually laughed. I realized I'd never heard him genuinely laugh before. And when he smiled, really smiled, I hadn't seen that either. Not once in the entire year Olivia had been dating him. So, he murmured, leaning back in his chair, how are you holding up with the whole Luke situation? I clutched my cup, weighing my options. The truth was, I'd been cycling between pure rage and mortifying embarrassment for 3 days straight. My polite, mature answer was that I was fine, but I went with honest. I keep replaying it in my head, I admitted. He signed that form without even looking at me, like I was already gone. Will nodded slowly. Yeah, that was rough to watch. Was it that obvious? I asked, a flush rising in my cheeks. Was our relationship really that bad from the outside? He considered it. I don't know if bad is the right word. It was more like he wasn't fully there. Every time I saw you two together, he was either on his phone or looking somewhere else. You'd be talking, and he'd just be checked out. You noticed that? I did, he said, then stopped himself. Because what? I prodded. Because Olivia does the exact same thing to me, he said. Different flavor, but same energy. She's not checked out, though. She's just waiting for her turn to talk. Every conversation is just her waiting for an opening to bring it back to herself. The TED Talk thing I finished. Exactly, he said, a wry smile playing on his lips. I used to think maybe I was boring. She told me I was boring so many times I started to believe it. But then I realized she calls everything boring that isn't about her. An unselected film? Boring. An uninstagrammable restaurant? Boring. Wanting to cook dinner instead of going to some overpriced club? Boring. She called you a retirement home at dinner, I reminded him. He snorted. Oh, that's new. Usually it's grandpa or old man or my personal favorite. Why are you so obsessed with being comfortable? Will imitated Olivia's voice perfectly, and I laughed harder than I had in weeks. She's exhausting, I said. I love her. She's my sister, but God, she's exhausting. She's a black hole, Will added, his voice soft but firm. Everything gets sucked into her orbit. Your time, your energy, your money. I spent $950 on a purse for her birthday, and she returned it because it wasn't the right shade of beige. $950. I stared at him. How the hell could he afford that and not bat an eye? What did he do for work? I made a mental note to ask after he finished ranting about my sister. I saw the one she wanted. I bought it, he shook his head. I should have known that sand and oats are different. I was genuinely shocked. Luke forgot my birthday last year, I blurted out. Completely forgot. And I reminded him the week and day before. Then he yelled at me for being upset because birthdays aren't serious. Olivia demanded a surprise party and was upset I invited her friends instead of beauticians. He responded. Will asked. I still don't know what that means. It means she wanted hotter friends for photos, I explained. Her friends are hot. Not hot enough, apparently. Something shifted when we laughed. The initial discomfort vanished, and we were two battle-scarred veterans exchanging war stories. Will, I said, leaning forward, can I be honest with you? He nodded. Please. When Olivia brought up this whole swap thing, I wasn't surprised. I was relieved. The words tumbled out, a confession I hadn't even realized I was holding. I'd been trying to find an exit for months, but every time I brought up breaking up, she'd cry or threaten to tell everyone I was emotionally abusive or say she'd hurt herself. I was trapped. My stomach twisted just thinking about it. Will, that's manipulation. Yeah, I know. But when you're in it, you don't see it clearly. You just feel guilty all the time, and you don't know why. He ran a hand through his hair. Anyway, I signed that contract because it was the first door she'd opened willingly. Even if it's only a month, it's a month where I don't have to pretend anymore. I understood that more than I wanted to admit. Luke made me feel like I was asking for too much. My whispered requests for his attention, my quiet need for him to remember things, it all felt like a burden. I kept shrinking myself, trying to fit into whatever tiny space he left for me, and it was never enough. We both chose wrong, Will remarked. We really did. I smiled, and for the first time since that dinner fiasco, I felt something other than fury. I felt seen. Hey, random question, I said, a thought bubbling up. What do you do for work? I realized I don't actually know anything about you. Olivia never talked about you unless she was complaining. Will paused. Something flickered across his face. He was deliberating how much to share, but he didn't seem uncomfortable. I actually just quit my job, he stated. 3 weeks ago. Oh. I tried to sound indifferent. So, how did he afford the $950 bag? Was he secretly a trust fund baby? He sipped his coffee. Are you looking for something new? I asked. Not exactly, he said, and then he laughed nervously. This is going to sound insane, but I won the lottery. Like actually won. Not like $100. I mean, I won millions. I choked on my latte. Coffee went down the wrong pipe, and I coughed for 30 seconds straight while Will, looking genuinely worried, offered me napkins. Sorry, he said. I probably should have led with that. You probably should have. I wheezed. Millions. Yeah, millions, plural. And Olivia doesn't know. Nobody knows. I haven't told anyone. I didn't even tell Olivia because... He trailed off, looking at me expectantly. The connection between us was instant. Because she'd never let you go, I finished. Exactly, he said. She'd suddenly love everything about me. The staying home, the cooking, the comfortable, quiet life. All of it would become perfect the second she found out there was money attached. I leaned back in my chair, just watching him. This man my sister had thrown away because he wasn't exciting enough. This man she called boring and safe, comparing him to a retirement home. He was a millionaire, and she had absolutely no idea. She's going to lose her mind, I remarked. Will's jaw set. Yeah, he admitted gently. I know. A millionaire. My sister had tossed away a millionaire because he wasn't exciting enough. No one knew my sister better than I did. I knew how she reacted when she didn't get her way. But Olivia not getting something she never knew existed? That was one thing. Olivia finding out she had it and gave it away? That was going to be nuclear. The only question was how long until she found out. Really, it wasn't long at all. A week later, I was sitting next to Will on his couch. He was calling his mom to tell her the mortgage was paid off. I saw his face light up as she shed happy tears, and it was one of the most honest moments I'd ever witnessed. We were so caught up, we didn't hear Olivia return unexpectedly, using the key she'd refused to give back. She was in the hallway when she heard him exclaim, "Done, Mom! Everything. You and Dad never have to worry about the house again." We heard a banshee-like wail. It was Olivia. She burst into the living room, heels clattering like a tornado. "How?" she shrieked. "Will, you paid off a mortgage for hundreds of thousands. How? Where did you get that much?" Will went pale. He slowly rose, still reeling from the call with his mom. "Olivia, you need to leave." "I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what the hell is going on," she yelled, her frenzied eyes darting between me and Will like she was solving a life-or-death puzzle. "You drive a 10-year-old car and work a normal job. You said you couldn't afford Cabo for my birthday, but now you're paying off mortgages." "It's none of your business," Will said, his voice steady despite his hands shaking slightly. "We're not together anymore, remember? You made sure of that." Olivia snapped her head to me. You knew. You knew this whole time, didn't you? That's why you agreed to sign the contract so easily. You knew he had money and you played me." I scoffed. "Are you hearing yourself right now? You proposed the swap. You wrote the contract. You forced everyone to sign. I didn't even want to be part of this ridiculous situation, but you and Luke made that choice for me. No way this is a coincidence." Olivia insisted, her voice rising, becoming more erratic with each word. "You must have found out somehow. Maybe you went through his stuff. Maybe you hacked his bank account. I don't know how, but you knew and you stole him from me." "I didn't steal anyone," I said, my voice cutting through her hysterics. "You discarded him, Olivia. You presented him to me on a silver platter because you wanted my inattentive, checked-out boyfriend instead. No one compelled you to do it." "I didn't have all the information," she shrieked. "If I had known." "If you had known he was rich, you would have pretended to love him," I finished. "He knew you'd only want him for his money, so he didn't tell you. See? You're proving him right." Olivia's face turned beet red. For the first time, she looked like she was about to explode. "It's unfair," she cried. "I deserve to know these things. We were together for a year. You should have told me." Why? Will whispered, his voice dangerously quiet. So, you could suddenly find me interesting? To pretend staying home, cooking, and living comfortably wasn't boring anymore? Olivia, I know how that conversation would have gone. You would have liked everything about me the second you found out there was money connected. That's why I never told you. Olivia opened her mouth to reply, but nothing came out. For once, she had nothing to say. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, slamming the door so hard it knocked a picture frame off the wall. That seemed like the end, but I was wrong. My phone blew up with calls from my mother the next morning. Olivia had called an emergency family meeting, and I needed to come home, no excuses. When I walked into my parents' living room an hour later, Olivia was curled up on the couch, blanket around her shoulders, tissues strewn around her, her eyes red and puffy from skillfully timed tears. My mom was rubbing her back, looking devastated. My dad just looked uncomfortable, standing by the fireplace. "Ella," my mom murmured, using that gentle, sad voice she reserved for when she thought I'd done something wrong. "We need to talk. Will needs to talk." "Let me guess," I responded, my voice flat. "Olivia told you her version, and now I'm the bad guy." "No one said that," my mom replied. "Your sister is hurting. I just want things to go back to normal." Olivia wailed. "Yes, I admit I shouldn't have suggested swapping, but Ella is just rubbing it in my face and won't switch back, which is unfair." "A mistake." I repeated. "You planned this for weeks. You wrote a contract, Olivia. You brought a pen to dinner." I didn't know what I was giving up. Olivia insisted. "He hid stuff. He concealed his identity. How could I make a fair decision without all the facts?" "So now it's his fault you treated him like garbage?" I asked. "His bank statements were free. You should have loved him, not used him." My dad cleared his throat. "Ella, your sister might be right. Everything has gotten out of hand. Why not just end this early and let everyone move on? She hasn't stopped crying." "She's crying because she missed out on millions," I remarked, my voice sharp. "Not because she lost a great love. If Will were broke, she'd be taking pictures with Luke at brunch right now." "That's unfair." Olivia sniffled. "You don't know my heart." "You want me to say it?" I challenged. "Fine. I was blind. Now I realize I took him for granted." "That's different," my mom sighed. "Ella, please consider ending this early. For the family's sake." I looked at my parents, at my sister, at the flawlessly staged intervention designed to shame me into giving Olivia what she wanted. And something cold and definite settled in my chest. "No," I answered. "The contract states 1 month. No early withdrawal, no running to parents. You wrote those rules, Olivia. You wrote them so I couldn't flee when things got tough. Now you can't escape either. You wanted Luke so badly? Go be with him. Leave me and Will alone." 2 days later, Will arrived at my apartment looking exhausted. He sank onto my couch, pulled out his phone without a word, and handed it to me. "You need to see this," he murmured, scrolling through Olivia's texts. Dozens. Hundreds. "I made my worst error. Give me another opportunity. Miss you so much. Miss your cooking. Miss your embraces. I miss everything about you. I'll alter. I swear. Every night I'll stay home. I'll watch whatever you want. Never complain again. Will, I adore you. I always adored you. I was too stupid to notice. I'll feed you. I'll learn your favorite dishes. I'll be your dream girlfriend. I beseech you. I'll do anything. Anything." "She's offering to cook," I told Will, my voice flat. "That shows her desperation." "She offered to make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner after telling me she'd rather die than learn how to use a stove," he replied dryly. "Wow," I exclaimed. "She really wants that money." He threw his phone onto the coffee table. "I'm not saying anything. No more. What will you do?" His expression made my chest tighten. "Stay right here," he murmured. With someone who actually sees me. She pleaded. She cried. She pulled our parents into it. She blew up his phone with messages she never would have uttered during their actual relationship. Nothing worked. And if you think my sister gave up trying after that, you don't know her. When begging doesn't work, she switches tactics, and what she did next almost destroyed everything Will and I were building. For the next 2 weeks, I was happier than I had been in years with Will. We fell into a rhythm that felt so natural, unlike anything I'd had with Luke. Will would cook dinner while I sat on his kitchen counter, and we'd talk about everything and nothing. He remembered that I liked my eggs over medium, hated cilantro, and always needed a glass of water before bed. One night, we stayed up until 3 a.m. watching terrible horror movies and making fun of the bad acting. Another night, he taught me how to make his grandmother's pasta recipe and didn't get frustrated when I overcooked the noodles twice. He just laughed and said, "Third time's the charm." We ate pasta on his living room floor because neither of us wanted to go to the table, and it was the best meal I'd ever had. "You know what I admire about you," Will said one night as we lay on his couch, my head on his shoulder, some cooking show playing softly in the background that neither of us were watching. "My lethal wit and charm," I offered. He smiled. "No, your lack of performance. You just exist. You're just being yourself. I can breathe again with you." My chest tightened. I don't think anyone's ever said that to me before. "Then no one's been paying attention," he said, shifting to face me. "I mean it, Ella. You're smart and humorous, and you don't lie. That's rare. That matters." She's offered to delete Instagram, quit going to clubs, and say, be happy with a boring life as long as it's with you. "See his wallet?" I added under my breath. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't used to being seen that way, or being enough just as I was. "You matter, too," I whispered. "You're not boring or safe, or any of those other silly adjectives. You're steady. You're kind. You remember things. Attendance is everything." Will's gaze softened, and my heart actually stuttered as I kissed him for the first time that night. It felt natural. Our first actual date was at a small Portuguese restaurant Will loved. Olivia must have sensed a change, because that's when the sabotage began. Midway through our appetizers, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Oh my God, what a coincidence," Olivia remarked, appearing at our table like she'd materialized out of thin air. She was dressed to kill. Full makeup, heels that could double as weapons. "I didn't expect you to. May I join?" "Yes, we mind," I answered. "Despite me." She pulled up a chair between us. "How's it going?" she asked, staring at Will. "I hope we're getting to know each other slowly. You shouldn't rush anything serious. Rebound relationships often fail." "This isn't a rebound," Will answered calmly, but his jaw was tight. "Olivia, you weren't invited." "I'm just watching out for you too," she said sweetly. "Ella has a bad relationship history, and I don't want Will to get harmed. You deserve someone loyal." "Like who?" I asked. "Luke? The guy you swapped him for because you thought he was more exciting." Olivia just smiled briefly. I aired. "I've admitted it, but Ella rushing into something with you won't help. She's using you to get back at me." Will stood up and dropped cash on the table. "We're leaving," he whispered, grabbing my hand. "Don't follow us." We left Olivia sitting alone at the table. When the direct sabotage failed, she switched to indirect. Coffee shops, movie theaters, bookstores where Will wanted to show me his favorite section. She always appeared out of nowhere with an excuse about coincidence or concern, saying I was moving too fast, Will deserve better, or rebound relationships were doomed. All of my family members started texting me with their concerns. My aunt wanted to know if I'd manipulated Olivia into the swap. My cousin asked why I was being so cruel to my sister in her time of need. My mom called 3 times in a week to say Olivia wasn't eating and couldn't stop crying, and I felt no guilt. "She's telling everyone I planned this," I told Will one night, scrolling through another worried text from a distant relative. "She's saying I knew about the money and manipulated her into the trade to get you. It's insane. Will, you refused to sign the deal. She rewrites history. Olivia, he said, taking my phone and placing it on the table. And everyone believes her because she's gorgeous, charming, and always gets what she wants. I'm Ella, the troublesome one who wrecks everything. You're not the difficult one, he replied, pulling me closer. You're just the only one in your family who sees her clearly. That doesn't make you difficult. That makes you honest. Olivia called me that night. Maybe I was hoping she'd say something real, not manipulation, guilt, or strategy. You're really doing this, she said, her voice chilly and controlled. No more theatrical crying. You're really choosing a man over your own sister. I'm not picking anyone over you, I said. Olivia, you did this. Your choices caused the exchange, the contract, and everything else. He was mine, she roared. For a whole year, he was mine, and you just swooped in and took him the second you saw an opportunity. You threw him away, I shot back. 100 times. You delivered him to me and urged me to sign a contract to keep him for a month. I happen to like him, and you're upset. Olivia, that's not my fault. That's yours. After a long silence, she whispered, You're going to regret this. Ella, I'm your sister. You're wasting blood on a weak old friend. I'm not wasting anything, I said. You are, she insisted. You've thrown stuff away your whole life because you expect better. Well, guess what? I countered. Will was superior, and you abandoned him. Will watched me put my phone down and murmured, Your sister is exhausting. Gently, though nothing was funny, I chuckled. Yeah, she's funny. Olivia ruined our dates. Our family learned I manipulated her. She tried to make me pick between her and him, like I was the villain in her story. Every time she failed, he saw through her. I honestly thought she was done, but then she went quiet. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. Olivia never goes silent, so that silence worried me more than anything else. She doesn't give up. A week passed with no ambush dates, no worried family texts, no hysterical voicemails at 2 a.m. My phone was quiet, which made me more uneasy than all the craziness. Maybe she's finally done, Will observed one night while we cooked supper. Maybe she realized it wasn't working and moved on. You don't know Olivia, I said, shaking the sauce too hard. She doesn't move on. She regroups. But days kept passing and nothing happened. I started to wonder if I was wrong. Maybe she had exhausted herself. Maybe Olivia had a limit. Then she texted. 6 words. No guilt, no manipulation. Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow. I stared at the message for 10 minutes before answering. Fine. 2 p.m. I told Will that night, and he offered to come, but I declined. It was up to me to face this alone. Olivia was already in the coffee shop when I arrived, seated at a corner table with a cup of tea. She looked normal, almost human, and it was unsettling. Thanks for coming, she remarked calmly as I sat down. Olivia, what do you want? She sipped her tea slowly and placed it down. I apologized for everything. Showing up at your dates, the family stuff, the text to Will. I'm sorry for my infraction. I looked for the manipulation, but she only stared at me with a new expression. Acceptance. I've had time to reflect, she said. I've accepted things. Will is with you. The contract expires soon. Whatever happens after that. She shrugged. My fight is over. Just that. I asked gently. You're done. Just like that. She smiled softly, almost regretful. Enjoy him while you can, Ella. Both of you looked delighted. After the month, we'll assess everyone. She cocked her head. Maybe Will and I can agree. Something about the way she said, enjoy him while you can, made my stomach clench. As if she knew something I didn't. I felt like she was counting down to something. Okay, I said slowly. Thanks for the apology. Oh, sure. She stood and grabbed her purse. See you around, Ella. Tell Will. Hey, I said, but she was already gone. I sat there for a long time, trying to figure out why her calmness worried me more than her craziness. When it was quiet, I felt like I was waiting for a bomb. Olivia doesn't lose gracefully. She never loses. So when she started acting like nothing mattered, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what. Then my phone rang at 2 a.m. She was crying so hard I couldn't understand her. And what she told me, it altered everything for everyone. It was Olivia in the middle of the night. I answered instantly, knowing nothing good happens after 2 a.m. "Ella," she muttered between sobs. This wasn't her usual theatrical crying. This was raw, horrible gasping. "Olivia, slow down," I whispered. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "I slept with him," she screamed. "I slept with Luke." "You what?" "I know," she wailed. "I'm sorry." I was angry and heartbroken, and he kept texting me about missing someone who respected him. I just wanted to feel desired, and it happened. "Ella, I'm sorry." "Olivia slept with Luke." The room spun. "When? When did this happen?" "A few days ago," she muttered. "But that's not why I'm calling. There's another thing, Ella. Something worse." Worse than my sister sleeping with my ex-boyfriend? I couldn't fathom it. "He told me after," Olivia said, her voice shaking. "After we were intimate. He told me he has something. An STD. He found out a few weeks ago, but he was embarrassed to tell anyone." I grabbed the edge of my mattress to steady myself. "He has what?" "I don't know what." Olivia sobbed. "He wouldn't say. He basically apologized and said I needed to be tested. His tone was so casual, Ella, like he hadn't just ruined my life." Luke and I had slept together 2 days before the swap. I remembered it vividly because it felt like a last-ditch attempt to fix something broken. I thought reconnecting physically would help. It didn't. Now, that night could have cost me everything. "Olivia," I whispered slowly, shivering. "If Luke discovered something a few weeks ago, he had it when we were together. I slept with him 2 days before swapping." Olivia's raspy breathing was the only sound on the line. She was too preoccupied with her own dilemma to even consider mine. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, Ella, I didn't even think." "No," I said, a harsh laugh escaping me. "You didn't. You never do." I hung up and called Will, who answered on the second ring, groggy. "Ella, what's wrong?" I rushed to tell him everything, shivering so violently I could barely hold the phone. "I'm coming over," he said. "Don't move." He arrived at my apartment in 15 minutes, hugged me without a word, and we just stood in my doorway for what felt like forever while I tried to breathe. "We need to get tested," I mumbled against his chest. "Both of us. If I have something, and we've been together." "Hey," Will said, looking at me, his hands cupping my face. "I haven't slept with anyone else. So whatever's happening, I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about you, and we'll work this out together. Okay?" I nodded, still feeling sick to my stomach. We arrived at the clinic immediately. Luke arrived 5 minutes later, looking annoyed, like he'd been dragged out of bed for something incredibly inconvenient. "This is ridiculous," Luke muttered as we all walked in. "I told you it's probably nothing serious. You're all overreacting." "Overreacting?" Olivia screamed, drawing attention from half the waiting room. "Luke, you told me after sleeping together. That's not overreacting. That's attempted murder." "That's not attempted murder," Luke replied, his voice annoyingly plain. "I don't care what it means." Olivia shouted, "You should have told me." "Who does that?" "The kind who didn't want this exact conversation," Will said, his voice cold. "I'm not the bad guy," Luke insisted. "I found out and told people. This is more than most men would do. A medal for the minimum." I asked, "You had something and slept with people not honest, Luke. That's reckless." "I didn't keep sleeping with people," he said. "I slept with Olivia one time after I found out. And I told her right after." "Right after isn't before," Olivia screamed. "Right after doesn't protect anyone." Luke stood up, looking at us in disgust as a nurse called his name first. "I, not you, must endure this," he said. "Maybe wait until you get your results, before judging." He disappeared down the hallway, and Olivia burst into tears again. Will put his arm around me, and I leaned into him, trying to block out my sister's sobbing. The nurse called my name next, leading me to a small room with clinical, cold lighting. She collected blood, gave me a cup for a urine sample, and informed me findings would take 48 to 72 hours. I answered questions about my intimacy history with a distant numbness. What else should I know? I asked. Before leaving, she glanced at me with rehearsed sympathy. Avoid spiraling. I know it's hard, but worrying won't change the results. Will followed me in even though, he said, he wasn't worried. For solidarity, he said. Olivia went last, and looked like she'd aged 10 years in 15 minutes. The four of us stood in the parking lot in the most awkward silence of my life. Luke leaned against his car with his arms crossed, looking defensive. Olivia kept checking her phone like the results might magically appear early. Will held my hand in silence. This is your fault. Olivia suddenly screamed at Luke. If you hadn't pushed for this dumb switch and been honest from the start, we wouldn't be here. Olivia, Luke replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You wanted excitement. Congratulations. Is this exciting enough? Don't you dare blame me for your disease. Olivia yelled. It's not an illness, it's a condition. Luke shouted back. I got it from someone else. So legally, I'm a victim too. You're victimized? I said, shaking my head. That's your takeaway. Forget it. Luke threw his hands up. I'm done. Call me when you stop treating me like a criminal. He drove off, and Olivia collapsed against her car, crying again. 48 hours, Will whispered, squeezing my hand. We just have to get through 48 hours. My sister was crying in the parking lot, at the empty space where Luke's car had been, and at the clinic behind us where our futures were in vials, waiting to be evaluated. 48 hours. Will never left me, even though he had nothing to worry about. I, on the other hand, had 2 days before the switch where I slept with a man who couldn't tell me what he was carrying. I was the one who answered the clinic's first call. They had all 4 results, and only one of us would fail. 48 hours later, the clinic called while I was pretending to watch TV on Will's couch. My heart stopped. I answered before the second ring. Hi, this is Ella, I said, sounding calmer than I felt. Miss Holmes, this is Dr. Warren from the clinic. The findings are in. Are you available to discuss them this afternoon? Can you tell me over the phone? Please. I asked. No more waiting. She paused, then continued. Negative results. You are clear. I gasped and collapsed onto the couch, crying before I could stop. Will was instantly beside me, hands on my shoulders, panicked. Ella, what's wrong? What did they say? He pulled me into his chest and held me while I cried. Thank you, I said into the phone. Thank you so much. I ended the call and we sat silently. Even though we both knew he had nothing to worry about, he'd gone to get tested for solidarity, not necessity. He'd still been there. Will answered his phone with trembling hands when it rang. I watched his expression as he listened. He nodded once, said, Okay, thank you, and hung up. No doubt negative, he said. I know. I laughed through my tears. I just needed to hear it. Olivia texted me about 10 minutes later. Results are in. Dad and Mom's residence now. She didn't reveal her results. Will drove. I stared out the window, trying to figure out how to feel after my sister had effectively ruined my life for weeks. She'd sabotaged my dates, turned my family against me, and slept with my ex-boyfriend. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt hollow. We arrived to find Luke's car in the driveway, and Olivia's parked crookedly on the street like she'd just jumped out. We heard shouts before we even reached the front door. Olivia stood in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, her eyes red and swollen like she'd been crying for days. Luke sat on the far end of the couch, looking defensive and small. My parents seemed lost near the kitchen doorway. Finally, Olivia murmured, seeing me. Everyone's here. What's happening? I asked. Olivia said shakily, I wanted everyone to hear this together. She glared at Luke. Tell them what you told me 3 weeks ago and kept secret. Luke's jaw hardened. I apologized before. What else do you want from me? I want you to say it, Olivia insisted, so they all know exactly what kind of person you are. Luke looked around as everyone fell silent, then stated quietly, I have an STD. I discovered it a month ago. Should have told people sooner. I didn't. My mother gasped. My father went pale. Will squeezed my hand. Ella, my worried mother began, looking at me. Did you? Are you? I'm negative, I said hastily. Her face lit up with relief. Confusion followed. But if Luke has something and you two were together. We got lucky, I said, shrugging. Or I did anyway. Everyone slowly turned to Olivia. Her laugh was sour. It was the laugh before someone completely breaks down. I'm positive, she said, her voice cracking on the second word. I tested positive because this piece of garbage knew he had something and slept with me anyway, and didn't bother to mention it until after. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. My dad looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. Olivia, Luke began. I swear I didn't know how serious it was. The doctor said it was manageable, and I was still processing, and I didn't know how to bring it up. Manageable. Olivia shrieked. You think that makes it okay? I have to live with this forever, Luke. Every relationship I ever have for the rest of my life is going to start with me explaining that my disgusting, reckless ex-boyfriend infected me because he was too much of a coward to be honest. I'm not disgusting. Luke replied, I made a mistake. People make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. Olivia yelled. Shrinking a cherished sweater is a mistake. Luke, this isn't a mistake. My life was shattered because you couldn't manage an awkward conversation. The worst part was how she was shaking, sobbing, losing her fight with every syllable. I did this to myself, she said, her voice breaking. I had Will. Sweet, kind, loyal Will, who never would have done something like this to me. Who actually cared about me. Who turned out to be a millionaire. She laughed again, sounding like glass breaking. I had a millionaire who wanted to take care of me, and I threw him away for this. She pointed at Luke in disgust. I'm sorry, Olivia, Luke murmured faintly. Get out, she whispered. What? Get out of this house, she shouted, gathering her last shreds of energy. I don't want to see you. Your voice bothers me. I've been damaged for life by you. Literally. Get out. Luke searched the room for a defender, but none came. My father stood back and pointed to the door. Luke grabbed his jacket and left without saying a word. The door closed behind him, and Olivia collapsed onto the couch. The screaming was over, but the sobbing was worse. I ruined everything, she muttered between sobs. I tossed away the perfect guy because I thought I deserved more. And look what I got instead. She buried her face in her fists. My attitude was negative. Will was bad. Olivia wasn't. She collapsed in front of everyone, yelling, crying, and blaming my ex for ruining her life. During her breakdown, she revealed why she wanted the switch. Her next statement made sense and made me feel nothing for her. The room was quiet save for Olivia's tears. My parents stood motionless, unsure whether to comfort her or stay away. Will kept his hand on my back as I watched my sister completely come apart, waiting for sympathy, for fury, for satisfaction, for anything. But there was nothing. Olivia, my mom whispered, approaching the couch. Honey, it'll be fine. We'll resolve this. Things are manageable now. Medicine has advanced. You don't understand. Olivia gasped. None of you understand. My tired, defeated dad continued. Then help us understand. Explain to us how we got here. Olivia removed her head from her hands. Her face was puffy and blotchy. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like war paint. She looked at me and her expression changed. Guilt, like I'd never seen before. "I need to tell you something," she sighed. "All of you, but especially Ella." My stomach clenched. "What?" "Shaking," she said. "The swap wasn't random. It wasn't a dinner-time whim. I planned it weeks ahead. Luke and I had been communicating for a month before the swap." Ice formed in my blood. "Talking how?" "Texting, primarily," she avoided my gaze. "It started innocently. He complained about your relationship, and I listened. That led to flirting. It increased." Will's hand tightened on my back. My mother made a small, wounded sound. My father's face hardened into something I'd never seen before. "You were pursuing my boyfriend," I whispered softly, while I was still with him. "I didn't mean for it to happen," Olivia pleaded. I realized I wanted him, really wanted him, but I couldn't just steal my sister's boyfriend. That would make me the villain. So I came up with the swap. The pieces clicked into place. The contract she'd already written. Luke's quick agreement. "He knew," I continued. "Luke knew about your plan." Olivia nodded sadly. "We discussed it. He was meant to be startled when I mentioned it during dinner. It was practiced." "He wasn't a good actor," I said, a bitter laugh escaping me. "Agreed too fast. I feared you'd figure it out." At dinner, Luke's eyes lit up when Olivia mentioned the swap, and he signed that contract without looking at me. I believed he was checking out of our relationship, but he'd already checked into another. "The whole thing was a setup," I continued, my voice sounding distant. "You manipulated me into handing over my boyfriend so you could have him without looking like the bad guy." "I'm sorry, Ella," Olivia cried. "None of this was my intention. I just wanted—" "What you wanted," I finished. "You've always wanted what you wanted, and you've never cared who you hurt to get it." "That's not true," she sobbed. "I adore you, my sister." "You don't love anyone but yourself," I said, my voice cool and cold. "You demonstrated that when you went behind my back with Luke. You proved it again by sabotaging my connection with Will. Making this about your guilt instead of what you did to me proves it." Olivia recoiled as if I'd slapped her. My parents were astonished. Will said nothing, but I could feel his support through his touch. "I thought if I got Luke through the exchange it would be okay," Olivia said. "I thought we'd be happy and you'd forgive me. I never expected this ending." "You never imagined there'd be consequences," I corrected. "That's different." She cried again, shoulders heaving. "I ruined everything. I plotted and controlled everyone. And for what? A man who lied about his health. A man who infected me and chastised me for overreacting." She gazed up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Your millionaire treats you well. I got what I deserved." I stared at my sister, my closest childhood friend, who had betrayed me in the most premeditated way, and was now only sad because her plan had failed. "Yeah," I whispered. "You did." I took Will's hand and headed out the door. As my mother called after me, begging me to stay, I just kept walking. Because honestly, there was nothing left to say.